Imagine that growing up, you always felt a little out of place in your own country. And then, as a young adult, you moved to an obscure country halfway across the world, let's say the Kyrgyz Republic. And instead of feeling like a foreigner, you actually fit in like you'd been there all your life. How can this be? You're listening to 2233, a podcast of exchange stories.
I memorized a lot of sayings in Kyrgyz, and that always got brownie points, especially from the older generation. One that's like my favorite, that most Kyrgyz people don't actually know, is "Ash beringe bash bersin, özün ömür jash bersin," which you say after you have a meal, especially if someone prepared it for you. That has gotten me like marriage proposals. You have no idea how many marriage proposals I've received, and either they're serious or not serious, like it just from that expression.
This week, marriage proposals galore, hanging out with Kyrgyz pop stars, and learning to keep one's voice down. Join us on a journey from New York City to Bishkek and Osh, and learning that you are an American after all. It's 2233.
We report what happens in the United States, warts and all.
These exchanges shaped who I am.
When you get to know these people, they're not quite like you read about them. They are people very much like ourselves.
Oh, that's what we call cultural exchange. Ooh, yes.
My name is Amanda Trabulsi. I'm from New York City. I participated in the Fulbright student program from 2016 to 2017 in the Kyrgyz Republic. I was based in Bishkek, but also spent some time in Osh. Now I am a project assistant at the National Democratic Institute in Washington, D.C., working for the Asia Regional Team. So the first story that I wanted to share is basically about the diversity of Central Asia and how the region has been influenced by so many different cultures since they've been under the rule of Mongols, the Persians, the Soviets, and how that all kind of ties into the culture today. And as a mixed person myself, my mom is Korean and my father is Arab. It was very comfortable for me to adjust right away in Central Asia. This was actually the first time in my life where people actually kind of, they just assumed that I was local. And I thought that was a really cool feeling because every time I would visit my parents' families in South Korea or in Saudi Arabia, it was always like, you look kind of different, you're not one of us. They would never say that, but it always kind of felt like I wasn't really fully part of the culture. And I felt like, whereas in Kyrgyzstan, I always felt like I was part of it. And that was really special. I really tried my best to make friends with local people just to integrate myself into the culture, and I felt like I was a chameleon the whole time. I was able to blend in. I would buy local clothing. I would try to just not stand out too much, and I could feel myself kind of almost losing an identity almost, and it was nice. It was nice to be able to adapt to different cultures and not have this barrier up all the time. When I was living in Osh, which the majority of people living in Osh are Kyrgyz, but there's also a very big Uzbek population that lives there. And I would go to the bazaars and bargain in Kyrgyz, because my Russian is good, but in Osh people speak Kyrgyz much more, or Uzbek. And one of the sellers, the vendors was Uzbek, and he was confused why I was bargaining in Kyrgyz because I look Uzbek. I don't look Kyrgyz. And it was this whole, there was just so much drama. All these people, coming all of a sudden being like, what? You're not Uzbek? And I just thought that was really funny, that no matter where I went, people kind of just assumed I was like them. And I don't know, I thought that was very special. People would always be surprised to find out I was American, and it was usually always positive reaction whenever they found out that I was American. Rarely did I ever encounter negative instances. Maybe this experience did kind of solidify and I guess confirm what I had questioned before about my own identity. I knew that I was always kind of unsure as to how to identify, and I felt more comfortable saying that I was American in Kyrgyzstan. And I guess in the US growing up, especially where I did, I mean, I grew up in New York City, but I grew up on the Upper East Side specifically, and I had gone to a school that was pretty homogenous. It was a private school, and I was one of the few people of color in my class, and I never kind of felt like people didn't really see me as an American. I thought I saw myself as like a different kind of American, but whereas when I went to Kyrgyzstan, it kind of confirmed my doubts in myself. And of course I am an American. I'm here through an American program, and my everything about the way I think is American. One big thing that I was kind of surprised about in my experience there is how popular I got just by being American but not a white American, because I guess based on Hollywood films, people are just used to seeing like only people with blonde hair and blue eyes, and when I would open my mouth and speak as a native English speaker, it would always just surprise them. Wow, she kind of looks like us, but she's American. Like, that's so cool. Maybe we can be American one day. Yeah, it was nice to be able to kind of represent other people from the States. I think because of that, I became very popular. I gained like a lot of followers on Instagram while I was there because I would run these talking clubs every week. It was open to the public. It didn't matter how old you were or if you were a student. It was at the local library called Bayalinova in Bishkek, and every single session we got new listeners. Each time they would come up to us, me and David Dry was the other Fulbright scholar, and they would ask us all these questions about our personal lives, and it was just interesting to get so much attention because no one was ever really interested in my life before. And then suddenly in Kyrgyzstan, I was featured on different news outlets. Like I was written about by Le Monde KG and 24.kg, like all these big news sites. They're kind of the equivalent of BuzzFeed for Kyrgyzstan, and so like each time a new article was published, I just get like another 200 followers. Like right now, I think I have like close to 2,000 followers on Instagram, and the majority of them are from Kyrgyzstan. I had one talking club. This one guy, Midir, at the end of the talking club, he came up to me and David and asked if he could get more practice besides just through the talking club. Because sometimes you'd have talking clubs with 120 people. And, obviously we couldn't give everyone our attention. So I talked to him one-on-one afterwards a little bit. And, I was asking him, like, what does he do? And he said, he's a singer. I was like, okay, I mean, like, I like to sing too. Like, what do you sing? And it turns out he's actually a famous Kyrgyz pop star. I didn't believe him until he showed me his Instagram page, and he had like 250,000 followers. People like all my students were already following him, and I had never heard of him before. But as soon as like I became friends with him, he started introducing me to all his friends, and they're all famous, and suddenly I'm friends with all these famous people in Kyrgyzstan, like most like Kyrgyz pop stars.
Özün boldun menin bağım, hangi zatın boldun menin kumarıma aylan. Görünbөгөн жүктер менен калдым сага айланып. Жарыкта көк көрбөйм, көз салбай өткөрбөйм. Кээде капалангансып булутча мынып көрүнбөйт. Айлап күн көп жылдап күтөт, билен чыдайт, билет сүйүүнү чындап, таза жүрөгү сынбайт. Махаббаты басыс кымбат жер жүзүнө малымдайм. Нукура сулуу келбети бар жасалма боек жамынбайт. Мен сүрөттөгөн кыз айда жер жүзүндө табылбайт.
I definitely was forced out of my comfort zone many times, and the biggest one I can remember that has stuck with me is when I went to a wedding in Jalalabad, which is in the south. It was the wedding of a student of a fellow Fulbrighter who was based in Jalalabad, and he invited all the Fulbright teachers of that year to attend the wedding. It was the best wedding I've ever attended. It was full day and a half. It started at 6 a.m. I got ready with the bride's family, and the men got ready with the groom's family, and everything was so chaotic, but also really entertaining for someone who's never been to a Kyrgyz wedding before. And they really wanted me to make a speech. So I had the whole day to kind of prepare for it, but they wanted me to do it in Kyrgyz. And while my Russian is good, my Kyrgyz was still I'm still at like the beginner's low intermediate level. But I knew that this would be the most fulfilling and rewarding challenge if I actually got to do it. I kept messing up throughout the day. I couldn't even focus on like what was happening because I just wanted to perfect this speech in like perfect Kyrgyz. It was such a challenge, but it was so worth it because the words in the speech could be used for almost all toasts. After I did it, and it was on camera and everything in front of like 1,000 guests or something crazy like that, I could still use the same words in that speech for anything else. Parties after that and like during New Year's, I used the same one and everyone was just so shocked. Like, how does she know like such words? I don't even know that, because a lot of Kyrgyz people don't speak Kyrgyz. A lot of them, especially the ones from Bishkek, only know Russian. I felt like that was a really great challenge for me, and I overcame it, and I still remember it.
Do you remember some? Do you want to say something?
Мен сиздерге бақыт өзін өмір жаны игіліктерді қалайым, бақтылы болғыла. That's like one of the things you can say at the end. That is the one I remember. I memorize a lot of sayings.
How does it translate?
It's like, I wish you success, good health, and happiness in your wedded life or whatever. I remember thinking that a lot when I was roaming around bazaars and just like pretending like I've been doing it my whole life, and just like kind of I felt like really cool just being able to bargain and in the native language of Kyrgyz people in Kyrgyz. It was definitely one of the most important goals I wanted to achieve in the beginning, just because I felt like that could really connect me to the culture more. And I remember my parents visited me, and I felt so proud being able to take them around and buy whatever they needed without any problems in communication. I feel like I'm sounding like I'm showing off, but if it's like all genuine, I swear. Just like being able to point different directions to people who didn't know the city well, from the country, people from Osh coming to Bishkek, not knowing where to go, and I felt like a real local, just being able to point out the direction. And there were times when I was like, oh, I wish my friends at home could see me right now. Like, this is so, like they probably would have never imagined me here. Definitely no shoes in the house. Even living on my own here in DC, I still try to do that. That's something that really has stuck with me. Also, my tea consumption has increased. I don't rely on coffee, and I don't think I ever did, but I definitely am more dependent on tea, and it makes me feel like good and warm inside. And I also always give up my seat for elderly people, which especially in New York City, I never really thought about that, even though it's only humane, but I definitely I'm more conscious of and aware of that. And whenever I am in the metro, I always, or if someone who looks like they really need a seat, I just give it up. Like, I feel like I'm much more aware of my surroundings and the volume of my voice as well. I mean, I never was a loudspeaker at restaurants or anything, but once I was in Kyrgyzstan, I realized, oh my gosh, Americans really are loud. Especially, the other Americans I met, I would find myself adapting like the local mentality and being like, why are they so loud? So I definitely found myself kind of adopting local, I don't know if mentality is the right word, but habits in thought and in practice. It was just a really great experience. I would definitely say that my year in Kyrgyzstan was probably one of the best years of my life, but it was long enough for me to realize I want to come back. And Kyrgyzstan is and I guess Central Asia in general is very special to me, and I kept wanting to go back, and I've been back 3 times since my Fulbright has ended. But much of that was due to the fact that my studies, I just finished my master's, and I was studying Central Asia and civil society, so I returned for those reasons as well. But I definitely see myself returning and finding work there. I would like to work in the field. And I don't necessarily see something, but I feel it, and I feel relaxed, and I feel calm, because I think there's something really unique about the mentality of, I guess, not just Kyrgyz people, but of Central Asia in general, and how people really know how to live in the moment. The pace of life is so different over there. Here, especially in metropolitan areas, I feel like I always have to think about the next step. What am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to do next week? What am I going to do next year or 5 years from now? I have to have a plan laid out. Whereas over there, I knew that I didn't need to worry about what was going to happen in 2 minutes. I just was able to really enjoy the moment. And I don't know what it is. If it's the air, if it's the food, I don't know. Like, the people I just felt very comfortable, and that's just how I feel when I think of Kyrgyzstan, and I really miss it. And I always have this like longing to return and share with Kyrgyz or Kyrgyzstani citizens more about my perspectives and gain more from their experiences and kind of bring that back to the US. I would like more people to know about Central Asia and more about the culture, because I think they have so much to offer the world, and I wish that there was a way to do that.
.2233 is produced by the Collaboratory, an initiative within the U.S. State Department's Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, better known as ECA. My name's Christopher Wurst. I'm the director of the Collaboratory. 2233 is named for Title 22, Chapter 33 of the U.S. Code, the statute that created ECA. And our stories come from participants of U.S. government-funded international exchange programs. In this episode, Amanda Trabulsi told us about her time as a Fulbright scholar in the Kyrgyz Republic. For more about Fulbright and other ECA exchange programs, check out eca.state.gov. We also encourage you to subscribe to 2233, and you can do that wherever you get your podcasts, and we'd love to hear from you. You can write to us at ecacollaboratory@state.gov. That's ecacollaboratory at state.gov. Special thanks this week to Amanda for sharing her experiences. I did the interview and edited this episode. Featured music was Blues in E-flat by Red Norvo and his Swing Octet, Knowing the Truth by Lee Rosevere, Blunted Sesh 7 by The Silent Partner, Cold Feet by Steve Klink, and Jarai by none other than Amanda's pop star pal, Bagish. Music at the top of each episode is Sebastian by How the Night Came, and credit music, always, is Two Pianos by Tagirlius. Until next time.